Greatness, welcome, welcome, welcome to the replay. Thank you for tuning in, for viewing. Thank you for hearts. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for inviting others to this group. I am so appreciative that you take the time to connect here at Stage Ready, talking about Stage Ready speakers. One of the things that I was committed to when I wanted to do this group is because one of the things I think is so powerful about storytelling is the opportunity to go beyond listening. That in storytelling, we go to feeling, and from feeling, we go into action. And the only way to really see that happen, the only way I've ever seen it happen, is through truly engaging an audience and using storytelling. Now, if this is your first time here, if you just joined the group, if you've never had a chance to hear from me, see me, talk to me before, I'm sharing my screen with you because I promise this is going to be short. I am also making it short because I want you all to get this stuff, and I'm trying to make sure it's a little bit more bite-sized. So I'm Sister Mathina. I'm better known for my work with Heal a Woman to Heal a Nation, an international women's organization and sisterhood. And we've been doing the work there for 15 years. And my areas of expertise include, of course, women's empowerment and transformation. Yet I also have a compassion, because of my commitment to women, to ending sexual violence from happening in our communities. And I spent the last 13 years training, speaking, educating individuals on how to end violence from happening in our communities, how to recognize it, understand it, and stop it. In my background around speaking, and I said this in the last, so I'm not going to repeat the whole story, but I said this in the last video. Go watch that video. But my background in speaking, I never thought I would be a speaker. That wasn't what I set out to do when I went to graduate school, started undergrad, any of those things. What I had a compassion for was helping people, connecting with people, supporting people. And particularly, I clearly understood quickly supporting, connecting with women. And you have to understand what your connection is and why you do what you do. So one of the things I often talk to my clients about, and individuals who I get a chance to touch base and connect with that aren't clients, is you have to decide and you determine and you share with us, are you a artist who speaks or a speaker who's an artist? What is that thing for you? Are you a vocalist that happens to speak? Are you an executive that happens to speak? Or are you a speaker who happens to be an executive? You have to determine that and choose that. So I titled this one number one tip, or rather, number one tip, but I really want to talk about one tip that will engage your audience. And when I learned this, it was the thing that made me go, ooh, yes. And of course, I had to add my own Mathina-ism to it, which is why it became a kilt. But the thing that makes a difference when connecting with an audience that I want you to capture, of course, is that they want to know you. Your audience wants to believe that you know what you're talking about. So your kilt stands for your know, like, and trust factor, and then the I stands for your influence. So what do I mean by this? Let's get in real quick. They need to know you. I'm not just talking about when you get on stage, can you think of one or two things that you can quickly share with an audience that tells them a little bit more about you than what they obviously may see visually or heard in your bio? One of the things I share with audiences all the time, and there's fun ways of introducing it and bringing it in, and it kind of is like a, whoa, really? But now you know something intimate about me. Just to think about your friends. When you know things about your friends, like your best friend, you know you got a little information on your best friend, so they're not going to slide out on you. So one of the things I quickly share with audiences, not just to say, oh, and by the way, but I find a way to slide it in there because it's usually something. And that is that I'm the oldest of 9. I have 2 brothers and the rest are all my sisters. So I'm the oldest of 9. With 9 personalities, 8 of the other personalities connected to my life outside of everything else, there's always something to talk about, something to include, some way to pull it in. But it's one of those things that it allows people to make that connection. Sometimes I may use it as an example. So for example, in a presentation I did the other day, I said, how many of you have siblings? And I just ask them to raise their hand. And then I go, okay, how many of you love your siblings but don't like them all the time? Typically, every hand in the room goes up. And then I may say something like, I'm the oldest of 9. And can you imagine how often I may love them all, but don't like them all the time? Especially, and I'll say something maybe funny or engaging that kind of gets a chuckle from the audience. Some people understand it or like, what's that? So I may say something about how often they text me, and I'll have text messages, you know, by the time the end of the presentation, I may have 50 plus text messages just from my siblings. So it gives the audience something that they know about me that's a little bit more intimate, a little bit more detailed than what they heard in the bio or things of that nature. It just draws them in, makes me feel like I'm a friend. All right, like factor. Your like factor is inclusive of some of the things that they may have in common with you that you can get to again really quickly. So just off the first example, people who have siblings, like I have siblings, may identify with that. Somebody who's an only child may not identify with it, but I have other things in my arsenal, of course, that they will be able to identify with. What is your like factor that you can quickly include and incorporate into your rapport building in the beginning of the session that will help with that process? Your trust. Once you allow them to know something about you, maybe see a piece of your vulnerability, laugh or chuckle with you, then, and they already have, based on your bio or something like that, they may already trust that you're knowledgeable. But as you begin to build into your content and show your knowledge base, then they'll begin to trust that you know what you're talking about, okay? So that's your know, like, and trust. Now, if somebody knows you, likes you, and pretty much, okay, I trust you at least in the capacity that you're in front of me, case in point, since I spend so much of my time talking to individuals who have been or may know or we're trying to prevent an individual from experiencing violence, one of my know, like, and trust factors, one of the things I will include is I will say sometimes, do you all trust me that I know what I'm talking about? And once I get that buy-in of that yes, then I may go deep dive into something that may be controversial about the topic that I'm addressing, something that may have shown up as resistance prior to, all of those pieces, because then they trust me a little bit more. So maybe what I'm about to say that pushes against their belief, that pushes against what they understand about my topic, they're willing to listen to just a little bit more than they would have before. Just a little bit more than they would have from somebody else. Because now I've built my kilt with them. I've built my know, like, and trust factor. And there is the influence. Because now that you trust me just that little bit more, now that you're connected to me just that little bit more, you're willing to believe me. You're willing to understand what I'm talking about. You're willing to buy into what I'm talking about. You're willing to take action on what I've shared. Because now I have influence with you. If you don't believe me, try this. Think about your friends. When you're looking for a great restaurant and maybe it's a new area, maybe it's in your hometown, and you're like, oh, I'm tired of my same old, give me something new. What do? You typically will go to a person or no place you know, like, and trust. So you may call a good friend, you may call your bestie, you may call somebody you know live in that area, even if you haven't talked to them in 6 months. You're like, oh, so-and-so knows this, or so-and-so has been in that area. You'll call them. You'll reach out to them. You'll send them a Facebook message. You'll send a Snapchat message. You're going to reach out. And you're going to ask them for what you're looking for. Why? Because you already kind of know them. You trust that they got a little information. And obviously, you got some kind of like for them. Otherwise, you wouldn't be talking to them in the first place. Okay? So they have influence with you. So as a speaker, you want to have influence. That's the only way that the audience is going to remember you past the 5 minutes of you leaving the stage or the room, and definitely past the 10 minutes by the time they get to a friend, colleague, family member, or what have you that you want them to relay the information to, let alone trust you enough to purchase from you, let alone more than once. So I said I was going to make it quick. I said I wasn't going to keep you long, and I was going to make it short. But I want you to have that piece of information, because that is where you get a chance to really see what's next. And I love stories as a way of building that trust, that communication, that know, like, and trust factor so you can get to your influence. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Maya actually talks about this quote that I love greatly. And she says that my phone's ringing, y'all. She says that there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. Your willingness to share your story, your willingness to go a little far and beyond allows an individual to be willing to go in that story with you. Okay? So I just wanted to give you all a few minutes of that, just a couple of minutes, just to kind of chime in and say this one tip that I believe will significantly make a difference for you and how you pull an audience, not just to listen to you, because we want to go beyond listening. We want to go to influence. And I believe that's going to really help us take there. If you are interested in knowing more about the membership program that I was talking about in the last video, and some of the members, we are taking 10 women. I'm taking 10 women and amazing 5-star men with me on my journey to 50,000 speaking hours. We are now at 44,211. 211. And so I want you to join me for this journey, but I want to spend 30 days pouring into you as a speaker, a trainer, a coach, somebody who's willing to release the agony of the untold story inside and who wants to show up in a dynamic and powerful way, not just to be listened to, but to be sought after, so that you have influence with your audience, influence with those that you desire to serve most in the world. If you are interested in that, be sure to fill out the brief assessment that's at the pinned post. It's in the pinned post. And I'm going to send you my chapter 5 of the book, Engage, Inspire, Prevent, where I talk about presentation skills. And I'm going to get you more information about what it's going to be like to join me on that journey, what I'm going to be teaching, what I'm going to be sharing. As a matter of fact, here's some of what I'm going to be teaching. I'm going to be talking about what kind of speaker are you. I'm going to be talking about building rapport with any audience. I have literally gone from a kindergarten class on up to training military personnel in the span of less than 6 hours, and still have to build rapport with that audience. I'm going to share with you the ways that I do that. We're going to talk about building your core message and the anatomy of a story. We're going to do a deep dive into what we call the value in the valley principle, taking them down into the darkest moment of your story, but pulling them up and out and rising with them and having them rise with you in a matter of moments. Show me versus tell me stories, showing your signature story. That's some of what we're going to be talking about and what I'm going to be sharing with those who join me as stage ready speakers. That's going to actually start on January 16th. So you want to get in. We only have 8 spots left out of the 10, and so I want you to join me for that experience. So I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much. I love you to pieces and back whole again, but make sure you use this tip because I guarantee it's going to make a difference on how you have influence with your audience.